Welcome back, or if this is your first time around, welcome. My name's Carol May Whittick, and you're listening to Higher Energetic Resonance Inspirations. This week we confront fear. To begin with a quote from Lao Tzu, there is no illusion greater than fear. The often repeated acronym of fear is false evidence appearing real. As well known as this is, often we tend to forget this truth when fear takes us over. So this week I'm asking, what does fear do to us? How do we recognise if fear is controlling you? Is fear ever useful to us? How can we overcome fear? Also, at the end of this episode, I will include my transformational breathing practice. That this one will include a Solfeggio Frequency 396 Hz because of its ability to alleviate the feelings of guilt and fear. So let's dive in. What is fear? Fear is the feeling of being afraid of some kind of threat or danger, whether it's imagined, whether it's real, and it is the greatest obstacle to all of us. It is a low vibration that allows us to be easily controlled. And if you want to manipulate somebody, get them scared, get them in fear mode. And nothing could be a greater example of this than recent events, as we can see how the world governments weaponize fear against society and the populations of the world in 2020. It was the threat of death that was stoked daily with death counts and viral videos of people collapsing. And the media piled on the guilt that we were a danger to each other and shamed anybody who would dare to question the narrative. Good people were then afraid to speak out because they were threatened with the loss of livelihood, their reputation, or even worse. The fear of what others think, what happened during that time, because we know of the survival rate of the virus, is that the fear of what others might think was greater than the fear of any contagion. And as a result of that, people went along with things that were ultimately against their better health. Being in that fear mode caused the majority of people to abandon any critical thought. As a result, the actions that people took in light of this fear is ultimately now creating the thing that they were trying to avoid, their own demise. So fear makes you lose your focus. Fear causes doubt in your own knowing. When you're in fear, you lose connection to your truth, spirit, universe, God. Fear is not who you are. Quote from Thich Nhat Hanh: "Fear keeps us focused on the past or worried about the future. If we can acknowledge our fear, we can realize that right now we are okay. Right now, today, we are still alive and our bodies are working marvelously. Our eyes can still see the beautiful sky. Our ears can still hear the voices of our loved ones. While fear can be an indicator of a potential danger, we're only imagining what could happen. And if we remain imagining the worst, i.e. worrying, we then stop any forward action." And this not only is relating to recent events, but the way that we actually will move within our lives, taking a decision to step into something new, even to move to a different city, to change a job, to leave a relationship. We are all creative beings. We all have highly active imaginations. Unfortunately, a lot of the time we tend to use our imagination to conjure up the worst possible scenario. And the thing about being stuck in the worst possible scenario is then we just keep playing that over and over again. That reality gets embedded in us and becomes bigger than any aspect of success. And we live in a society that understands that in order to manage the millions of people, the billions of people around the world, and to get them walking in lockstep with each other, is to keep them in fear. One of the most famous writings about fear was written by Susan Jeffers. She wrote the book Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway, and I'll be injecting a few quotes from her book. The first quote I have here is, "We fear beginnings. We fear endings. We fear changing. We fear staying stuck. We fear success. We fear failure. We fear living. We fear dying. That is probably the best illustration of what fear does. It just limits your movement in any direction. The fear of success we have a lot of the time will come down to us feeling small. Who are we to want better for ourselves? It might be stepping out of your peer group, stepping out of your community or your family and actually wanting something greater for yourself, and just being concerned, fearful of what people might say, or maybe who you will become. Would you be able to handle success? Would you stay a good person? Would you become somebody who is driven by success and becomes a tyrant even? Then we fear failure. We don't want to see our lives just running away from us and not doing anything, but yet we're stuck in between those two. Fearing living is fearing actually just, again, stepping out and making something of ourselves and making our lives purposeful and enjoyable to us. Fearing dying, like I said, we've just seen that over the past 2-3 years, is the things that people will do in order to stop dying, and yet they're not living. Inaction breeds doubt and fear. Action breeds confidence and courage. If you want to conquer fear, do not sit home and think about it. Go out and get busy. From Dale Carnegie. So one of the ways to overcome fear is action. All the things that you think might happen as a result of making that step or that move or that change. Again, it's all the imagination kind of going in the wrong direction and going into worry. And the only way to kick that idea to the curb is actually to go out and do something and realize that doing it is actually a lot more easier and a lot more enjoyable than just sitting and worrying about it. From Ralph Waldo Emerson, he who is not every day conquering some fear has not learned the secrets of life. Rudyard Kipling says, of all the liars in the world, sometimes the worst are our own fears. From Aristotle, fear is pain arising from the anticipation of evil. Henry Ford had a great one. One of the greatest discoveries a man makes, one of his great surprises, is to find he can do what he was afraid he couldn't do. Zig Ziglar, fear has two meanings: forget everything and run, or face everything and rise. The choice is yours. And an unknown is feed your faith and your fears will starve to death. So what is our fear showing us? And can we be impervious to fear? Can we feel the fear and do it? When we're in fear, clearly we're not in the moment. So any time that our mind starts wondering and thinking of the what ifs and it could go and it should go and all of these things, we're not in this moment here and now, or we're not engaged in the process of actually doing the thing that we're future casting about. We've lost trust in ourselves that we can do something. We've lost alignment with ourselves that what we are given as ideas and inspirations are ways for us to go. We can use fear to be aware of the negative possibilities. So that's not to completely take away from any fear that we have. We shouldn't necessarily just dismiss it, but we should understand what it is. It's a marker. It's given us an idea of where things could go. But knowing where things could go means that we can prepare for that, but yet we don't allow it to hamper our moves, our move forward. The most basic analogy I can think of now is if you fear it might rain, then take the necessary garments, umbrellas, rain mats, whatever you want, to actually walk out and be protected from the rain, or maybe you like getting wet. That knowledge of the possibility of things of it being rainy means that you prepare for that, so that you can then choose that if it does rain, then you're prepared. If it doesn't rain, then you've prepared for something that hasn't happened, or you haven't got what you need, then you just walk through it and see what happens. You may actually enjoy the rain. And for some reason, we always want to shelter and hide from the rain. Why do we fear things, or why do we hold ourselves back from just being abandoned? Just jump in. So to overcome fear, one of the things that society has done an amazing job of and continues to do is to condition us to be small and to expect the worst. It's almost like it's the right thing and the sensible and the quote-unquote adult thing to do, to prepare, to be practical and responsible, words that I'm not so great at, make small moves, very careful, considered, logically mapped out moves, or to make no moves at all. And we never get reminded about who we are at the core and what we are capable of doing. And we forget that because that's never honoured. We're never spoken to as sovereign beings. We're spoken to as people who need to stay safe all the time and prepare for a rainy day. And yeah, we have to look forward and think these are possibilities. And again, to refer to things that are happening in the world, yeah, it's good to make sure that you are prepared for the fact that it might be a bit colder. You need to prepare for the fact that there may be less food around. But that's not to go into fear. It's an opportunity, actually, to be, to prepare for it, but actually work a way around it. Maybe we've been relying on things that want us to be in fear because we are not seeing outside of this societal system. If that goes down, oh my God, we'll starve to death. Well, no, it's we just prepare by knowing that things can go left a little bit, but we've organised ourselves so that we're right. We need to remember who we are at the core. A quote from Paulo Coelho and his book, The Alchemist. Tell your heart that the fear of suffering is worse than the suffering itself, and that no heart has ever suffered when it goes in search of its dreams, because every second of the search is a second encounter with God and with eternity. And one of the things about stepping forward in faith, as opposed to standing on the sidelines in fear, is that once you're in the flow of it, once you're moving forward, you'll find that, one, you'll realise it wasn't as bad as you thought it was. Once in doing what you thought was so enormous and so overwhelming, that you actually find a strength and a confidence in what you're doing, and you can actually move through whatever gets presented to you, because you realise that that initial step and the fear that you had around moving forward represented nothing at all other than the fact that you've got a great imagination. Again, from Susan Jeffers, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. You may be surprised and encouraged to learn that while inability to deal with fear may look and feel like a psychological problem, in most cases it isn't. I believe it's primarily an educational problem, and that by re-educating the mind, you can accept fear as simply a fact of life rather than a barrier to success. A reminder from her as well. Remember that underlying all our fears is a lack of trust in ourselves. So if I refer to the questions that I asked before, what is our fear showing us? Can we be impervious to fear? And I feel that she's said it there, is to trust ourselves, to trust that we were given the inspiration or the idea to move in a certain direction because we have the ability to actually achieve this. To quote the Bible, 2 Timothy 1 verse 7, "For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but a power of love and of a sound mind." To include some personal experience here, is whenever I've experienced any kind of fear is because I am in deep doubt of myself. I forget that I am able to do what it is that I have been inspired to do, and I'm allowing the idea of failing or the idea of not knowing what to do or not being guided to waylay me, to get me sitting on the side and thinking about things way too much. Thinking about things way too much is just too much of a delay on you actually stepping into an amazing transformation of your own greatness. Like I said, society is not your friend when it comes to seeing you rise. The idea is to keep everyone in this mass of conformity, no one stepping out, no one making any moves, no one having any ideas above their station. But that's not who we are. And to close, Marianne Williamson, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. We are born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. So as we think about where we are in the times that we are and the awakening that's happening around the world, the people that are being most fearless, the ones that are speaking out, the ones that are imbued with some purpose, despite us being in uncomfortable situations where all the name calling and all the derision and all the hatred and has been on a level I've never known of in my own lifetime. If it's ever come like that before, I don't know. I think technology and social media and the fact that the information is just, and the entrainment and the mind control is being poured in so much that unless you really find that alignment with who you are, that true self, that's the only way that you can walk through the fear, because we're not just walking through and walking forward past our own fears. We're standing up in the midst of everybody else's fear, and that's why they're pulling us back, and we just need to remember that. So thank you. And before we go into the transformational breathing practice to eliminate fear, I just encourage you to connect with me if you'd like to. If you've got any questions, if you'd like to suggest a topic heading for a future episode, you can reach out to me by my email, which is info@carolmaywhittick.com. Carol May Whittick is CarolMaywhittick. I am on Facebook under the same name. I am on Instagram as Kazmick, CAZMICK. There is a small Telegram group, Her Conversations and Inspirations. And I'd just like to say thank you for all the positive feedback for this new format. Her Conversations still exists. It's just a weird time of year at the moment to record as everyone's kind of like winding down for the holidays. But it still is going, and my invites have been sent out. So it's going to be like January, February, you're going to be inundated with new content. So that remains, and that will return. So I lead you in the meditation, and until next week, take care. Thank you. Fear is what we experience if we perceive ourselves to be in danger. This can be physical, emotional, psychological. The fear can be real or imagined. While fear is an important factor to help keep us safe, being in fear long term is detrimental to our quality of life. While we're in fear, our breathing is often affected. We can experience shortness of breath, hold our breath, depriving our bodies of oxygen, or hyperventilate, which activates the sympathetic nervous system, increasing the heart rate, raising the blood pressure, therefore making us feel more anxious. Fear takes us out of the present moment as we imagine all the potential dangers ahead of us. When we can bring our awareness back to the present and ground ourselves, we will realize that at this moment we are safe and in control. We are then able to calmly and objectively address our thoughts, and then take the relevant action if needed. The breathing pattern I will be guiding you through today is often called box breathing. You will inhale for 4 counts, hold for 4 counts, and exhale for 4 counts. Over time, as your capacity grows, you may choose to increase the count. Embedded in this track is the Solfeggio Frequency 396 Hz, because of its ability to alleviate the feelings of guilt and fear, making space for us to experience the joys and endless possibilities of life. So first, find a quiet place where you will not be disturbed for the next 15 minutes. Sit on the floor or sit in a chair that fully supports your back. Before we begin, let's scan your body and notice if you are holding any areas of tension. Make sure your feet are placed on the ground. You can wriggle your toes or circle your ankles to release any tension and relax. Imagine your feet sinking into the ground. Slowly bring your awareness up to your calves. Feel them soften as the tension falls away. Up to your thighs again, releasing the weight of your body into the ground. Let any tension fall away from your spine and allow your back to relax. Let your arms be heavy and your hands rest on your thighs. See any tension fall down your shoulders and your arms. You can gently circle your shoulders and your hands and your wrists in one direction, and now in the opposite way. Envision your head resting lightly on the top of your neck. Allow your jaw to hang relaxed and let go of any tension you feel around your mouth and your lips. Let your tongue lie gently in your mouth. You can rest the tip of your tongue behind your teeth. Soften your cheeks. Feel the relaxation in your forehead and your brow. Now bring your attention to a point below your navel. This is the area you will be directing your breath to. It may be helpful to hold one of your hands gently against this area as a guide, so that when you breathe into this area, you'll want to see your hand move slowly outward and then return inward with your inhale. As you breathe, allow yourself to observe as the cooling sensation of your breath passes through the inner walls of your nostrils. So let us practice. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Now continue at your own pace. Allow your breathing to fall into its natural inhale and exhale pattern. Notice that any feelings of fear and anxiety are not present in your body at this time. Know that you are safe. Know that you are supported. Hold that feeling with you as you meditate for the rest of the track.